Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Talbot, Managing Director and Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. We would like to extend our thanks to the TSX for sponsoring this session. Our next presenter is Steve Cochran. He's President and CEO of Lithium Chile, and the company has numerous brine projects in the lithium triangle of Chile and Argentina, including some high-grade projects in some of the largest undeveloped salars in Chile. So Stephen, you will have 15 minutes, and then we'll start the Q&A, a 5-minute session right at the end. Okay, so take it away.
Well, great, David, and thanks to you and your audience for taking the time today to hear what I think is the most undervalued and the best junior story in the lithium space on the TSX today. And I'll go through this very quickly. There's a lot of moving parts, but I hope you'll get an overview and understanding of who we are, but more importantly, where we're going. First, the overview of the company. We own lithium projects in 2 of the 3 countries in the lithium triangle. We have a resource project that we just announced a 43-101 compliant resource on in Argentina, and we have 12 exploration projects in Chile. 69,200 hectares spread over those 12 projects makes us one of the largest landholders of lithium prospects in all of Chile. We also have some legacy projects from when the company initially went public. We have 4 gold, silver, copper properties that we're currently in discussions to joint venture out. And of course, the very major transformational project that took place here in January was our initial 43-101 compliant resource that came out of our 23,300 joint venture project on the Salar de Arizaro and Salta province. The last thing that's happened, which I think has been certainly transformational for us, but reinforces the value in our company, was a recent strategic investment made by Shenzhen Lithium out of Shenzhen, China. Shenzhen is the 2nd largest lithium processor in all of China, soon to be the largest, currently 60,000 metric tons a year, but they're adding an additional 70,000 metric tons. So they reached out to us, they approached us, they had made an investment in Argentina last year. They caught wind of what we were doing in Arizaro, approached me, just so happened I was doing a financing at the time. They wanted to take it all. Unfortunately, half had been spoken for, so they came in for $3 million of the financing and currently own 3% of Lithium Chile. They're going to be a great partner going forward. Their expertise in processing, their willingness to secure supply, their unlimited capital, they could be a very major part of our plans in the future. Quickly, an overview of all our projects. The red represents our prospects, both in Chile and, of course, the Arizaro project down here in Argentina. As you can see, Bolivia to the north, Argentina to the south, and Chile, our projects run the whole gamut, the whole length and width of the lithium triangle. Today, I'm going to focus on 2. One is our Arizaro project, because we just converted it from an exploration to resource play, and a joint venture we're working on up here in Coipasa. What's driving the market? Well, what we've seen is unprecedented movement in the commodity itself. Lithium over the last 12 months has been the strongest performing, best performing commodity, bar none. It's up 600% this year alone. And currently trading at all-time highs at 70,000 US per metric ton. This morning it hit 500,000 renminbi in China, and the performance has been nothing but spectacular. And it's what's driving the interest in the lithium space. People are calling me out of the blue, asking to learn a little bit more about lithium and learn a little bit more about us. And I think this process is going to continue well into 2025, 2026. There's nothing on the books right now of imminent production coming on that's going to address this shortfall. And recent world events, particularly the Russian-Ukrainian situation, I think it's going to push people away from internal combustion engines. Price of gasoline is going to make people look at alternatives, and really just uncoupling from dependency on Russian crude is going to drive the electric vehicle market and the adoption of EVs even further. Quickly, to get to the two projects that I think currently define our company. First and foremost is our Argentinian project, the Salar de Uyarri in Salta province, Argentina. The provinces in Argentina control the resources, and the most pro-lithium, pro-mining province in all of Argentina is Salta province, and that's where our project's located. The Salar de Uyarri was one of the largest, is the largest salar in all of Argentina, and one of the least explored. We control 23,300 hectares in the salar. We are one of, if not the biggest landholder currently in the Salar de Uyarri. And as you can see by this map, our claims occupy the heart of the salar. This is what's transformational. This is a log of our production well, which we recently announced our 43-101 compliant resource, 1.42 million metric tons. Up until we drilled below this cap, most of the early explorers just drilled into this top layer of rock salt on the Salar de Uyarri. It's 300 meters thick, drilling is very tough, low porosity, and very low grades, so they quit. It was our team, the SMG group, that actually explored for the first time below this 300-meter depth. They took their initial exploration well to 375 meters, and they encountered high-grade lithium, but more importantly, good porosity. Our production well was taken to 470 meters. We actually plumbed the depth of the basin, and what we found were not only high-grade lithium brines, we found huge porosity. In most cases, in excess of 25%. This produced flow rates that are some of the highest ever seen in Salta province. We got to 50 liters per second at one point, and the average was 21.9, 22 liters per second. Both the grades that we saw and the flow rate contributed to the initial resource of 1,420,000 metric tons on one well. Our current plan and what we're currently engaged in is expanding that resource, both from an area extent, but I think we could improve the grade overall, and I'll explain why. 470 meters was the deepest anybody's drilled into this salar, and it's obviously created quite a stir, because on top of the high flow rates we saw, when we were able to isolate that lower zone, we were seeing lithium grades between 446 milligrams and 555 milligrams per liter. For Argentina, those are excellent grades. Unfortunately, and we feel it's because we've got contamination from some of the lower grades up hole, our QP, Montgomery and Associates Engineering, used sort of the lower end of the range when they calculated our resource. So they used 298 milligrams per liter, and yet still came up with indicated inferred resource of 1,420,000 tons on our first hole. Put that in perspective, the first hole Millennial engineered, they got 180,000 metric tons. On Neolithium's first hole, they got 100,000 metric tons. So 1.4 million tons on the first hole, for us, I think is extremely exciting, as it is for other players who have approached us since we made this press release. What's the next steps? Well, first, here's the hole, the initial resource hole on the block in the center of the salar. Step two, which is currently underway, is to expand the resource to cover a much greater portion of these claims, and that's currently underway. These are the drill locations as engineered by Montgomery Associates, and the environmental permits have been completed, and they've been followed along with the drill permits to begin this process as soon as possible. We think the permitting process will take 30 days, but in the meantime, we're currently constructing roads and drill pads on these locations. We have a drilling company lined up, and we expect to be underway with the drill program, as I say, sometime in the next 30 to 45 days. The entire project is budgeted $2 million US, but more importantly, what do we hope to get out of that? Well, Montgomery Associates anticipates that they'll be able to add 1.5 million metric tons per drill location to that initial estimate of 1.4 million. So that gives us the potential right now for about 4.8 to 5 million metric tons based on this drill program as outlined. On top of that, we think we can improve that grade by cementing off the upper low-grade halite cap and isolating the lower zone. We feel quite strongly we can improve that grade from 298 to 300 milligrams to 450 to 500. That alone, by getting 500 milligrams on average, that alone would add another 1.4, 1.5 million metric tons to that overall $5 million number, giving us close to 6.5 million metric tons. It will make it one of the largest discovery in recent years in Salta province. Put in perspective, millennials indicated, inferred, and measured were only 4.1 million metric tons at an average grade of 414 milligrams, and they were bought out for $500 million. So we're very excited. We think this is a great project to add value, but more importantly, it's the kind of project that's attracting a lot of attention from some of the biggest players in the space. So that's currently underway, and results will be released as they come in. The second project, though, that I think could be a major contributor is our Chilean project, Salar de Coipasa. We control about 68% of the salar on the Chilean side, second biggest salar in the world. The Bolivians have just committed 189 million for a direct extraction plant on their side. So we're very excited about the potential of this project within our portfolio. What's making it more interesting is we've recently been approached by the company that owns the other 32% of this salar. It's a company called Grupo Errázuriz. Francisco Errázuriz is the second or third richest family in all of Chile. They own wineries, they own agriculture, they own Copiapó minerals, and they have a salar project in the south on the Maricunga Salar. But what makes this deal very interesting is that Grupo Errázuriz just won one of the contracts. They bid $60 million for the right to produce 80,000 metric tons of annual production in Chile. They've offered to bring that contract, bring their property, and joint venture on the co-development of this salar. So those negotiations are going on as we speak. But from our perspective, to have the right to produce lithium in Chile with this contract would be a huge step forward for us. So that, in essence, is kind of a quick overview of our company. There's a lot more irons in the fire. I'd be happy to discuss with you at a later date. But for now, that's Lithium Chile.
Great. Thank you very much, Steve. Lots of time here for questions. So please, anybody, put your questions into the text box and we'll get to as many as we can. So Stephen, I guess just to start, you have a lot of projects. How do you go about prioritizing budgets and exploration focus here?
Well, right now it's very simple. Up until the end of last year, when we had this portfolio of exploration project, trying to pick the best one was always a bit of a challenge. Now with this initial resource discovery, we know we've got an asset. Now we know that's going to underpin the value of Lithium Chile, but more importantly, we think we can increase the value as well by expanding that resource. So that's priority one. That's a $2 million budget. Drilling rigs have been lined up. As I say, environmental permits have been filed, drilling permits have been filed. So that's very easy to commit that $2 million because that has the ability to add another 4 to 5 million metric tons to our initial resource. That was easy. We have $13 million in the bank, so it's not a big chunk of our capital to essentially add significant value, I think, to the company. Koi Pass is also a very high priority project for us. Our budget there for 4-well program is 1.9 million. And if we could JV it with the Mineros del Norte and have their production contract already in hand, I think that makes a lot of sense for us. It's interesting with the interest in lithium overall right now, we have many overtures from a lot of companies to JV some of our other projects in Chile, and we're reviewing those opportunities as we speak.
And you talked a little bit about the Arzaro drilling that you did last year. You think you can expand on lithium grades in the area. Have you, now that you're drilling it, have you changed how you'll be sampling that project? And should we expect an updated resource this year?
You'll get an updated resource for sure this year. And yes, we're going to take what we've learned on that production well, and we're going to apply it to the 3 diamond drill holes that we're currently designing to expand that resource. One, we're going to cement up the upper halite zone so we isolate it. Secondly, we used a wire mesh casing in that lower zone, and we're going to go with a solid casing so we can actually perforate and identify the high grade zones. When we were able to sort of use a Packers Plus system, even within a wire mesh sections of that lower zone, that's when we got the grades 446, 440, and 555. So we think isolating or cementing off and isolating that upper zone and then using a solid casing in the lower zone, we're going to get the kind of grades that we think could add significantly to the overall resource.
Right. Okay. There are a lot of salars in Chile that come up with high grades, and even you guys have samples about 1400 plus ppm lithium. That's probably two to 3 times the average grade in Argentina. How quickly do you think you can get some of your Chilean projects moving forward?
Well, one of the big advantages of doing this joint venture with the Grupo Araucarias Mineros del Norte is the political clout that the Araucarias family brings to some of the projects. The Salar de Koi Pass is in Region 2 of Chile. Sorry, it's in Region 1 of Chile, and Grupo Araucarias is the biggest employer in the Region 1 area of Chile. So they not only bring sort of their contract to produce and sell lithium in Chile, they bring their expertise, they bring their capital, and they bring their connections. So I'm hoping if we can close a joint venture agreement here with them in the next 30 days, it would be 30 days after that I think we could be on that property in a meaningful exploration program. Of course, it all dependent on both sides agreeing to the terms, but we're working towards that as we speak.
Right. Okay, thank you. I guess here's a question about the end game. You know, what's the ideal situation for Lithium Chile? Is it a takeover of the company, or do you plan to sell individual assets? And if you're going that route, how would shareholders see or benefit, see a return or benefit?
The only way I'm going to monetize my investment in this company is by selling the company. That's my goal. I think we're building the assets. Well, I know we're building the assets because it's attracting attention as we speak. I mean, it's not coincidental that the second largest lithium processing company in China invested in us days after we announced our initial 43-101. I've signed a number of NDAs. I've had virtually every player in the space reach out, interested in looking at that data. My end goal is to sell the company. Now, what that deal looks like, I've been asked that question. Would I sell it lock, stock, and barrel, or would I spin out the Chilean properties? I said, basically, if the buyer's willing to pay the price we want, it's his decision. If he's going to buy the house for the right price, he gets the fridge and the stove. So it'll be their decision at the end of the day. But obviously, there are other alternatives. But my end game is to sell the company. And I think the process has already begun. I think when we look back and we see that Shenxing has taken a stake in the company, may have been the biggest signal that we're in play right